As part of Linux commands for beginners, we need to understand how to deal with multiple machines. To understand how to deal with multiple machines, we need to have multiple machines. One of the ways to get multiple machines so that we can explore the details and commands related to dealing with multiple machines is to use cloud platforms such as AWS. In this section of module, we'll actually go through the details about getting started with AWS so that eventually we can create as many machines as we want to explore all the important Linux commands at beginner level. In this section of module, we'll go through the details about signing up for AWS. Once we complete the sign up process, we'll have valid AWS account. Once we get valid AWS account, we'll see overview of AWS Web Console, and also we'll actually go through the details about AWS EC2 Console or dashboard. We'll limit the discussion only to AWS EC2 Console or dashboard because we'll be using only EC2 to explore all important aspects related to Linux commands at beginner level. Once we get an overview about AWS EC2 Console or dashboard, then we'll actually take care of creating something called as the EC2 Key Pair. It is important to have EC2 Key Pair so that we can connect to EC2 instance without any issue. When we create AWS EC2 Key Pair using AWS Console, a PEM file will be downloaded. We need to make sure the backup is taken for that PEM file. Without that PEM file, we will not be able to connect to EC2 instance. Once the key pair is created, we'll be creating EC2 instance using the same key pair, which means we'll be able to authenticate to that EC2 instance using the PEM file that is already downloaded. Once the EC2 instance is created with the appropriate EC2 key pair, we'll see how to log in into the AWS EC2 instance using the PEM file. Then we'll actually get details about AWS free tier and also pricing. Then we'll also go to the details related to AWS Web Console Cloud Shell. We can leverage Cloud Shell to actually manage the AWS services and their components. Once we go through all these details, we'll actually spend some time in understanding some of the AWS EC2 instance concepts. Then we'll actually see the details related to managing AWS EC2 instances. These are the things which we'll be talking about by the end of this section. You will not only understand AWS console, you will also create EC2 instance and also you will terminate it. Once we go through these steps, we will be proficient enough to create as many EC2 instances as we want when we actually get into the appropriate sections or modules down the line in this course to explore more and more Linux commands and concepts. As part of this sectional module, we are going through the details related to getting started with AWS from the perspective of exploring some of the basic Linux commands. We'll be exploring quite a few networking concepts and also the concepts related to SSH using the servers provisioned from AWS. We need to have multiple servers. In this case, we are going to use AWS as the platform to provision multiple servers so that we explore some of the basics related to Linux commands. That being said, in this lecture, in the process of getting started with AWS, let's see how to sign up for AWS. To sign up for the AWS, you just have to go to aws.amazon.com. Then you should be able to click on create an AWS account. Keep in mind that AWS takes your credit card information. You need to use your credit card information to sign up for AWS. Without credit card information, you will not be able to sign up for AWS. You can give your root user email address and then specify the account name, then click on verify email address. You will get an email. You have to complete the verification process. Then you have to take it further by registering your credit card. Based upon your credit card and the comfort level with respect to providing the information, it might take a day or two to complete the sign up process. You need to have valid AWS account to make sure you provision instances from AWS to explore some of the basics related to Linux. If you don't want to use AWS, you can also use other cloud platforms such as GCP, Azure, etc. All you need is some additional servers so that you can experiment around multiple virtual machines when it comes to concepts such as SSH, networking concepts, etc. That being said, once you are done with the sign up process, you can log in into your AWS account by again going to aws.amazon.com. So let me say aws.amazon.com. Then you should be able to click on sign in. Then you should be able to use your root email and you can actually log in once the account is created for you. So you have to choose root user to log in for the first time. Then you have to specify the email address. In my case, it is nothing but this one. Once the email address is entered, you also need to enter the password. Let me enter the password here. I have multi-factor authentication and hence it will actually ask me for the authentication code. In your case, you might not have configured multi-factor authentication at this time and hence you might not have to enter the authentication code. It might be optional for you. However, you can actually enable multi-factor authentication for additional security. Once the multi-factor authentication is done, you will start getting the screen where you have to enter your authentication code. That being said, now if you see this, you can ignore by clicking on not now. You don't need to register your mobile number. Then it will actually take you to the AWS Web Console or AWS Management Console. This is how you should be able to complete the sign up process and also log in for the first time. Once you log in for the first time, you have to watch here. You can check the region. The region will be selected based upon the location which you are in. The default region can be different, or you might want to explore by creating EC2 instances in a different region. You can select a different region by clicking on this drop down and take it further. I'll be using US East region. In your case, whatever region you want to use, you can pick it and you can take it further. As of now, we have gone through the details about how to sign up for AWS and also how to log in into the AWS Web Console and also how to change the region so that you can leverage the region which you are interested in to experiment around learning all the important aspects with respect to Linux commands. Yes, we have successfully signed up for AWS account. Now let's spend some time in understanding AWS Web Console. AWS Web Console is nothing but this one. You can see quite a few wizards here. There is a recently visited, then welcome to AWS, so and so forth. You can also build solutions directly using relevant commonly used wizards. You can launch a virtual machine, you can start a development project, you can also connect an IoT device, so and so forth. In this section, as part of getting started with AWS, we'll be primarily focusing on launching a virtual machine. We'll be taking care of rest of the stuff depending upon the relevance of it in other courses. That being said, one of the key things with respect to AWS Web Console is nothing but services. Then global search bar. You should be able to search for either a service or feature or blog or document or anything using this global search bar. You can also navigate through the services by clicking on services here. You can see the services are grouped into multiple categories such as analytics, application integration, so on and so forth. You should be able to click on the category and you should be able to see all the services under that category. With respect to getting started, we should be focused on compute. You can see the options available as part of the compute. We'll be primarily focusing on EC2. This is how you should be able to navigate through services. You can see that the services are categorized into multiple groups. You can choose appropriate group or category and then take it further. You can also search for services such as EC2 by using this global search bar. You can see that it is actually providing the link for the EC2. We'll go to the details very soon. On top of the services, you can also see the references related to EC2 in features, blogs, documentation, knowledge articles, tutorials, events, marketplace, etc. This is how you should be able to get started with AWS Web Console. On top of services and also global search bar, you also have few additional things on the right side. You can actually use Cloud Terminal or Cloud Shell. You should be able to click on this. It will quickly create a Cloud Shell for you. You should be able to interact with AWS services using this Cloud Shell. I will actually go to the details about Cloud Shell as part of one of the lectures in this getting started. It is very, very important for you to understand the relevance of Cloud Shell. We will see those details. Also, we have notifications. You should be able to review the notifications and access those things. You can also click on this to get help or documentation or even training. Also, you can review the regions here. We have already gone to the details about regions in the previous lecture. You can choose the region of your choice and then you can take it further. If you wanted to get details about billing and all, you should be able to expand this and then you should be able to click on billing dashboard. As part of the getting started, I'll not be covering all the nuances related to billing dashboard. It is not that important at this time. We'll be using a free tier to provision the EC2 instances. Even if you spend additional amount of time than whatever is provided by free tier, as we are using low configuration servers, the costs associated with those low configuration servers will be very minimal. That being said, make sure you understand how to use this AWS Web Console to get whatever you are looking for. For billing dashboard, you have to just expand your account name here and then go to billing dashboard. You can also use Cloud Shell. I'll not be covering details with respect to Cloud Shell at this time, but as part of one of the lectures in getting started, I'll be covering details with respect to Cloud Shell. Also, to access all the services, you can either go to services and go to appropriate category and access a service, or you should be able to search for a service as part of this global search bar. Also, for most of the services in AWS, we have designated console or dashboard. For example, EC2 have EC2 dashboard, IAM have IAM console, so on and so forth. As we have understood AWS Web Console at a higher level, now it is time for us to explore EC2 dashboard. Using EC2 dashboard, we'll also see how to create EC2 Key Pair and also our first EC2 instance. All those details will be covered as part of this sectional module across multiple lectures. That being said, let's go ahead and explore EC2 dashboard so that we can leverage it to actually provision our first instance eventually. As part of getting started with AWS, so far we have signed up for AWS and also we have gone through the details about AWS Web Console. Now it is time for us to explore AWS EC2 dashboard. To go to the EC2 dashboard, you should be able to search for EC2 here. I'm using global search bar, or you can also go to the services, then go to the compute. EC2 is part of compute category. You should be able to click on it. It will take you to the EC2 dashboard. Let's wait until EC2 dashboard is opened. It is also known as the EC2 Management Console. As of now, as part of Northern Virginia region, I have 7 instances running. Overall, there are 20 instances. Rest of the 13 instances are in stopped state. I have 30 volumes. Then I have 11 key pairs, 56 security groups, 139 snapshots, 19 elastic IPs, so on and so forth. This is the high level overview about my EC2 usage. When it comes to EC2, there are quite a few components in it. The main component is nothing but instance. On top of instance, we also have volumes, snapshots, elastic IPs, security groups, key pairs, etc. At this time, as part of getting started, we will primarily focus on key pairs and instances. Then if you want to go to the instance level details, you can click on instances and you should be able to see the details related to the instances. You can see that it is showing all the instances that are there as part of my account. To go back to the original dashboard, you can click on EC2 dashboard here. Now you can see that it came back to the original dashboard. You can also click on instances running here. It will take care of filtering for running instances and you can see only running instances here. You can click on this to remove the filter. Then you should be able to see all the instances. If you are familiar about AWS concepts, you can also explore others. For now, don't worry too much about it. In the process of getting started with AWS, it is enough to understand the details with respect to the instances that are provisioned at this time. You might not see any instances under your account. On top of instances, another important component within EC2 you should be familiar with is nothing but key pair. So we'll be creating a key pair and we'll be using it to provision the instance, and hence you can actually go to the key pairs and you should be able to review all the key pairs that are created under your account. You might not see any key pairs yet. You have to create the key pair. We'll be taking care of creating a new key pair as part of the next lecture. Also, when it comes to EC2 instances, there will be volumes associated with it. We will go to the details about volumes and a few other important components such as security groups once we provision the instance. That being said, as we got an overview about EC2 console or EC2 dashboard, now it is time for us to go to the details related to creating the key pair so that we can leverage that key pair to create the AWS EC2 instance. I'll be covering the details about creating the key pair as part of the next lecture. Then we'll actually take it further to provision instance using that key pair. At this time, we are actually going through the details about getting started with AWS. In the process of getting started with AWS, we have seen how to sign up for AWS, and also we have got details related to AWS Web Console and EC2 dashboard at higher level. Now it is time for us to create EC2 key pair for SSH login. When it comes to creating the key pair, you can actually click on it so that you can actually create the key pair. You can see the existing key pairs here. You can create a new key pair by clicking on create key pair. Then you should be able to give the name to the key pair. You can also register existing SSH keys as key pair. In this case, I'm actually creating a new key pair. We should be able to give the name here. Let's say GS demo, getting started demo. You can actually choose key pair types. I'll be using RSA type. When it comes to private key file format, I'm using .pem. If you want to configure using PuTTY, then you can use .ppk. We'll be using .pem. Even when we use Windows, we'll be using Linux that is set up using WSL. As part of Linux-based systems, we should be able to leverage .pem files and we should be able to connect to the EC2 instances that are provisioned using this key pair. In case if you wanted to use PuTTY, you can convert PEM to PPK at any point in time and then take it further. I'll be primarily focusing on connecting using Linux setup using WSL on top of Windows to connect to EC2 instances rather than using PuTTY. That being said, make sure you choose PEM, then click on create key pair. It will take care of creating the key pair for you. You can also see that the PEM file is downloaded. It is very important for you to save this PEM file in appropriate location so that you can use it to connect to EC2 instances which will be provisioned using this key pair called as GS demo. Now you should be able to refresh this. You should be able to see GS demo key pair here. Keep in mind that you have to use this key pair so that we can leverage gsdemo.pem to connect to the EC2 instance that is being provisioned. It is very important for us to identify the key pair that is supposed to be used with the EC2 instance while provisioning. Only those EC2 instances that are provisioned using this key pair will be able to connect using this PEM file. PEM file is nothing but private key file. When we use this key pair while creating EC2 instance, the corresponding public key will be copied into the home directory of standard user. You will understand all those nuances process when we actually provision EC2 instance and when we try to connect to that EC2 instance using this PEM file. For now, just create a key pair and make sure you remember which key pair you wanted to use while provisioning the EC2 instance as part of the next lecture. As part of getting started with AWS, so far we have gone through details related to signing up for AWS. Then we have got an overview of AWS Web Console as well as AWS EC2 Console or dashboard. Then we have created EC2 Key Pair. The key pair name is nothing but JS demo. We have even downloaded the PEM file which is created because of the EC2 Key Pair. Now it is time for us to launch a virtual machine using EC2. We'll be using the key pair that is created. It is nothing but JS demo. There are multiple ways to get into the page where we can actually launch a virtual machine. As part of the AWS Web Console home, under Build a Solution, you can see there is an option called as Launch a Virtual Machine. You should be able to click on it and you can actually get started with creating a EC2 instance. You can also go to EC2 dashboard or EC2 console and then you can actually launch a virtual machine or EC2 instance. Already you can see that there is EC2 under recently visited. You can click on it to go to EC2 console, which also includes EC2 dashboard. You can also search for EC2 as part of the global search bar and then you can click on EC2. Then it will take you to the EC2 console, which includes EC2 dashboard. As part of the EC2 console, by default, you might get into EC2 dashboard. You can see launch instance here. You should be able to click on this and get started with launching the instance. Once again, if you click on launch instance here, it will take you to the same page what we have seen earlier when we clicked on launch an instance as part of the AWS homepage. Now using this page, we should be able to launch the instance. We can give the name for the instance. Let me give the name as GS demo. I'm giving the name as JS demo itself. In this case, I'll be creating EC2 instance using Ubuntu operating system, and hence let me click on Ubuntu. This is the latest web console. Earlier, the web console used to be a little bit different. That being said, now you should be able to choose Ubuntu 20.04. At this time, Ubuntu 20.04 is the most popular one. Recently, they have even launched 22.04. In this case, I'll be launching using Ubuntu 20.04. Let me click on it. Now let me scroll down. Make sure you choose t2.micro. It is more than enough for us to get started with AWS. Also, we should be able to learn quite a lot of stuff using this t2.micro itself. I have chosen t2.micro because it is free tier eligible. It means if you just started with AWS for 1 year, you should be able to run this instance. Only one instance can be run for 1 year for free. That too if you have chosen t2.micro. Other instances are not free tier eligible. Unless and until you are using your corporate account, make sure you choose free tier eligible if you just started with AWS. Then we have to choose key pair. We have created a key pair by name GS demo. Let's choose it here. This is how you will be able to configure the key pair while creating the EC2 instance. Without key pair, you will not be able to log in into the EC2 instance. Make sure you choose the appropriate key pair here. You need to have corresponding private key file downloaded onto your Windows or Mac. In this case, I have jsdemo.pem downloaded into my Mac. I'll be using as part of my Windows-based system as well. Now, if you want, you can configure network settings. For now, we will just choose this one, allow SSH traffic from. It is automatically chosen. Without this, you will not be able to connect to this EC2 instance, even though the instance is created using appropriate key pair. Now let's scroll down. It is time for us to configure storage. By default, you will get up to 30 GB for free as part of the free tier. If you wanted to use more than that, then you have to pay. You have to understand the pricing and you have to be prepared to pay. As of now, by default, you will be getting 8 GB and the type of the storage which you will be getting out of the box is nothing but SSD GP2. There are also other types such as GP3, IO1, which is nothing but IOPS SSD, and also IO2, which is also of type IOPS SSD. On top of these things, we also have magnetic standard. You can choose the type of storage depending upon your requirement. In this case, I'll be increasing to 16 GB rather than 30 GB. So let me say 16 GB here. Now it will be associated with the instance that is being created. On top of these things, there are also advanced details. If you want, you can explore. For now, we can ignore. These are not that important. Now let me collapse this. Let's review the details here. We are trying to create one instance. The operating system is nothing but Ubuntu 20.04. The instance type is nothing but t2.micro. As of now, it is going to create a new security group. If you want to configure, you can configure existing security group itself as part of this virtual machine. When it comes to storage, it is nothing but 16 GB. As we have reviewed all the details, we can actually click on launch instance. It will take care of creating one instance. If you wanted to create 2 or 3 instances, you can change the number here and then you can click on this button. It will take care of creating those many instances. Let's click on launch instance here. Now you can see that instance is being created. It will take some time for instance to be completely up and running. You can actually click on this. It will open in another tab or window. Now you should be able to see the details. The instance state is in pending. Once it is running, you will see the state as running. Once the state is changed to running, we should be able to connect and we can validate whether the instance is created properly or not. That being said, as we have initiated the instance creation, let's wait until instance state is changed to running. Then we will see how to connect to this EC2 instance using SSH via this PEM file. We'll be using this PEM file while connecting to this instance. Now you can see that the instance state is running. Now it is time for us to try connecting to this instance. I'll do that as part of the next lecture. As part of getting started with AWS, after signing up for AWS, we have successfully provisioned EC2 instance using a key pair called as JSDemo. When we actually created the key pair, we have downloaded the PEM file as well. Now using this PEM file, we should be able to connect to this EC2 instance. On top of PEM file, we also need to have either public DNS or public IP to connect to this EC2 instance. You can see the details about public IP here and also public DNS here. Either we can use public IP or public DNS to connect to this EC2 instance using this PEM file. I have already copied this PEM file into my Windows system. As part of the Windows system, it is under Downloads folder. In case if you have used the browser in your Windows system to actually create key pair and also EC2 instance, most likely the PEM file will be downloaded to Downloads folder. At times you might have configured the Downloads folder to some other location. In case if you couldn't find the PEM file under Downloads folder, you need to figure out the location which you have used for downloads and you have to go to that location to find the PEM file. Using this PEM file and the public DNS, we should be able to connect to that EC2 instance. In case if you are not seeing the details about your instance, you just have to select it. Now you can see that there are no details related to this instance. You just select it. Then you should be able to see the public IPv4 address here, a public IPv4 DNS here. I typically use public IPv4 DNS. You can also use public IPv4 address. Keep in mind that the public IPv4 DNS is derived from public IPv4 address only. Now let's go back to the Windows. Let me open the PowerShell. PowerShell already have OpenSSH. You should be able to use OpenSSH in PowerShell to connect to this EC2 instance. All you need to do is say SSH, then -i, then downloads. You can hit tab after typing few characters in downloads. You can see that it have autofilled. Then you have to specify the PEM file name, which is nothing but jsdemo.pem. The default user with respect to Ubuntu 20.04 is nothing but Ubuntu. That is the username which you have to pass. Paste the public IPv4 DNS. Hit enter. It might prompt you to say yes or no for the first time. Once you type yes, you will be inside the EC2 instance. You can see the details here. This is how you should be able to connect using PowerShell, leveraging OpenSSH that comes as part of PowerShell. PowerShell in Windows 10 and Windows 11 will automatically have OpenSSH. You should be able to use it and log in into the EC2 instance without any issues as long as you have the PEM file. If you don't have the PEM file, then you will not be able to connect. That being said, if you are using Mac, you can open terminal. Then you can say SSH-i home directory, tilde represents home directory, /downloads. As of now, the PEM file is under downloads folder and hence I am saying downloads. Then jsdemo.pem, then Ubuntu paste the public IPv4 DNS, hit enter. However, on Mac, it might fail. You can see that it is complaining saying bad permissions. It is because the permissions on the file has to be restricted to the owner, then only it will work. Now let me copy paste the path of the jsdemo.pem to review the properties of this PEM file. I am using lsfn-ltr command. You can hit enter. You can see that the permissions are nothing but read and write for the owner, read only for members in staff, read only for others. In this case, we have to change the permissions to 600, which means the others should not have read permissions. Now I can actually say chmod 600 or I can also say g-r, comma O-R, which means others. Then we should be able to paste the file name. The file name is nothing but this one. Now it is pasted, hit enter. Now let's say ls-ltr downloads jsdemo.pem. Others other than the owner doesn't have any permissions. Now I should be able to use this command to connect to the EC2 instance. This time it will work without any issues. This is how you should be able to connect to the EC2 instance using the PEM file along with the public IPv4 DNS and also the user. The user is nothing but Ubuntu, which is default user for Ubuntu 20.04. Also, if you are not sure about this command, you can actually use AWS Web Console to get the reference command, and you can actually improvise on top of it to get appropriate command to connect to the EC2 instance. Let's go to the AWS console here. You can actually select the instance here, click on connect. You should be able to get the details related to default user, and also you can go to the SSH client and you should be able to see the command for your reference. By using this, you should be able to connect from the downloads folder. If you are using Mac, you need to make sure the permissions on this file are nothing but 600. Even with respect to Ubuntu, you have to make sure the permissions are 600 or even 400. I have 600, even with 600 it will work. However, 400 is recommended. That being said, you can also go to EC2 instance connect, then click on connect here. It will take care of connecting to EC2 instance directly from AWS console itself. You can see that I am connected to the EC2 instance using AWS console. However, keep in mind that not all instances might have this feature enabled. Only certain types of instances with a certain operating system might have this feature. That being said, this is how you should be able to connect to EC2 instance once it is provisioned from AWS. As we have created our first EC2 instance as part of the AWS account, now it is time for us to understand some of the nuances related to pricing and free tier. Let's go to Google and search for AWS free tier. Then you should be able to click on this to get more details about free tier. You can also click on this to understand more about free tier. Probably this might be a better bet using the AWS free tier. Whenever you sign up for AWS, this is what free tier actually gives you up to 12 months. Your AWS usage stays within the AWS free tier limits. For each and every service, there will be free tier limits. You can only use up to those limits. Also, it is eligible only for 12 months. After that, there is nothing free in AWS unless and until you get credits from them. You can also easily get AWS credits if you are a startup. You use only AWS services that offer AWS free tier benefits. Some of these services might not have free tier benefits. You will not be able to get those services for free. Also keep in mind that you have configured your credit card to complete the sign up process with respect to AWS account, and hence if you cross free tier limits, you will be charged on your credit card. At times AWS might waive some of the charges, but they might not waive all the time. That being said, it is very important for you to understand the free tier limits based upon the service you are using. Now we are using T2.micro instance. To understand details about getting started with AWS, you need to understand the limits related to your T2.micro instance. Already we have seen a notification with respect to storage. You can get up to 30 GB free storage with respect to free tier around EC2. Also, when it comes to EC2, only T2.micro comes under free tier. There will be charges associated with all other instance types. That being said, it is very important for you to understand how free tier works with respect to EC2. When it comes to any EC2 instance, there are different states. The states are nothing but running. Also, you can select the EC2 instance here, then expand instance state. On top of running, you also have stop state, hibernate, and terminate. If it is terminated or stopped, you will not be charged. Otherwise, you will be charged. Even under free tier, the number of hours will not be counted if the instance is in stopped state. If the instance is in up and running state, then your free tier hours will be counted. That being said, in a month with 31 days at max, you will be having 744 hours. For 744 hours, you will be able to keep this instance up and running without any issue. However, if you want to run 2 instances, you need to make sure that combined they should not exceed 744 hours. If they exceed 744 hours in a 31-day month, you will end up paying for both the instances. Whatever hours that are counted beyond free tier, based on those hours, you will be charged. So keep these things in mind and make sure you avoid unnecessary charges by shutting down your servers that are not in use. On top of the free tier, you should also be familiar about pricing. One of the ways to get better understanding about pricing is nothing but pricing calculator. You can actually search for AWS pricing calculator. In this case, we are talking about EC2. For each and every service, you should be able to use this pricing calculator and come up with the pricing. With respect to EC2, you just have to click on create estimate once you are in a pricing calculator. Then you have to search for the EC2 here. You can actually click on configure. Now you have to choose the region. Sometimes the charges will differ based on the region also. You can give a description here. Then you can actually choose the region. In this case, I am going to use East North Virginia. This is the one which I am going to use. Let me click on change region. You can choose the operating system. On top of compute, sometimes there will be costs associated with the softwares such as operating system as well. We have used Ubuntu. Ubuntu comes for free. If you are using Red Hat or Windows, you might end up paying for operating system. There will be some additional charges. Now you can actually enter minimum requirements for each instance. Let's say you wanted to use 10 instances. Here you are talking about only one instance. Then you have to increase the quantity here if you wanted to consider 10 instances. You can actually go with vCPUs and memory, and also you should be able to search instances by name. In this case, it is instances by resources. Here it is instances by name. You can see by default it have chosen t4g.xlarge. In case if you want to change, you can change. In this case, we are talking about t2.micro. So we can search for t2.micro, or we can select t2.micro from this drop down. Then you can actually specify the number of instances. What will be the utilization of each instance? Will it be 100% or something else? You can also configure hours per day or hours per month. So let's say I would like to use these instances for 100 hours per month. Let's say I would like to use 3 instances. Now you should be able to see the details related to charges. Automatically the charges will be displayed here. For 3 instances for 100 hours each, we are going to pay $24.77. So in this case, this is 100 hours per month can be per instance. Let's change it to 1 and see if the costs will differ. You can see that with one instance it is only $8.26, whereas with 3 instances it is nothing but $24.77. This is how you should be able to come up with the estimate for the services that are being used as part of your pursuit in understanding AWS. It is very important to understand this is just an estimate. The final costs might vary. The final costs will vary depending upon the usage of your services and also depending upon other additional charges such as data transfer, etc. Make sure you understand the relevance of free tier and also be comfortable with the pricing calculator to get an estimate. Also configure alerts and notifications as part of the billing so that you are notified if certain thresholds are met. That being said, this is how you should be able to get started with free tier and pricing. As you go along and start using more and more services in AWS, you should be comfortable with both free tier as well as pricing. As of now, for getting started, this is more than enough from the perspective of EC2 instances. As part of getting started with AWS, so far we have successfully provisioned t2.micro instance using Ubuntu 20.04 operating system. Now let's understand how to get the details about the instances that are being provisioned from AWS using a very important tool called as Cloud Shell. To launch Cloud Shell, you just have to click on it. It will take care of launching the Cloud Shell for you. It will use a Docker container under the hood, and you should be able to access all the services and their components in AWS using Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell automatically provide you quite a lot of stuff. Let me actually close this. Let me go to the EC2 console homepage here. Let me click on this. Let's see the pop-up to see what all features you will get using AWS Cloud Shell. You will have quite a lot of pre-installed tools such as AWS CLI, Python, Node.js and more. Also, there is 1 GB of free storage per AWS region. The files will be saved in your home directory and they will be available in future sessions for the same AWS region. So within each AWS region, there will be a home directory associated with your Cloud Shell. You should be able to access those files across the sessions within the same AWS region. You can click on Do Not Show Again if you don't want to see this pop-up again, and then click on Close. Now it is launched without any issues. However, the font is not big. Let me see if I will be able to zoom in. Let me actually say large, confirm. Now you can see the text in bigger size. You can actually see that it already have Python. The Python versions it contain are nothing but Python 2.7 and Python 3.7. You should be able to launch Python CLI. Also, as part of Python CLI, you should be able to use Boto 3 as well. Boto 3 is a Python-based AWS SDK to interact with AWS services. Not only Python, but also libraries such as Boto 3 are actually pre-installed on these machines. Now we can say exit and come out of it. Now I came out of it. On top of Python and Boto 3, it also have AWS CLI. You can see here. As AWS CLI is pre-installed, it is not throwing error saying command not found. Instead, it is actually saying the command is not used properly after showing the usage. You can actually get the help of AWS CLI by saying AWS help. You can see the help related to the AWS CLI. Now, we have already provisioned one EC2 instance, which is of type t2.micro. Let's open that instance. In this case, I am searching for EC2. Let me open in a new tab. Now it is being opened in a new tab. You can see the EC2 instance which we have provisioned earlier. You have the instance ID. You can copy it. Under AWS main command, there is a subcommand called as EC2. You can say help to get the help on AWS EC2. Now to get details about a given instance, we have command called as describe instance. Let's go to the command describe instance by just hitting space. You can see the describe instances. Let's see if there is a command by name describe instance. I think there is no command by name describe instance. There is only a command by name describe instances. Now let's come out of it. Then say AWS EC2 describe -instances, then help. You should be able to get help of subcommands under AWS EC2 using this approach. The syntax is nothing but AWS, then the service, then the subcommand related to that service, then help to get the help on describe instances under EC2. You can see the details here. You can pass the instance ID and you should be able to describe the instance using the instance ID. You can pass multiple instance IDs as well. As of now, I'll be passing only one instance ID. Now I can actually say AWS EC2 describe instances. The way you can pass the instance IDs is by using this approach. We just have to say -- instance IDs. Then we have to specify comma separated instance IDs. As of now, I'll be specifying only one instance ID. Let's copy this, paste, then hit enter. You should be able to see the details about the instances that are passed here under instance IDs. As of now, we have passed only one instance ID. You should be able to see details about this instance here. This is how you can get started with Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell facilitates you to manage the services and components of the services in ad hoc manner. In earlier days, we used to have EC2 instance and we used to call it as Bastion server. Now there is no need to have Bastion server for regular ad hoc tasks. You should be able to leverage Cloud Shell under your account and you should be able to maintain services and their components. Make sure you are really comfortable with Cloud Shell. It will actually facilitate you to streamline the process of managing the services and their components in AWS. As part of getting started with AWS, so far we have provisioned EC2 instance and also we have seen how to connect using PEM file belonging to the key pair that is used while creating the EC2 instance. Now let's understand some of the key concepts related to AWS EC2 instances. When it comes to AWS, it is nothing but a cloud platform. There are multiple data centers in multiple regions related to the AWS cloud platform. In this case, we have used Northern Virginia region, which means data center in that Northern Virginia region have servers and we have provisioned EC2 instance from those servers. Let's say North Virginia, it is the region from which we have provisioned the EC2 instance. So there will be a data center, there will be n number of data centers in this region. You can consider this as one data center. As part of this data center, there will be quite a lot of physical servers. So this can be one physical server, this can be another physical server, this can be another physical server, this can be another physical server. Like this, there can be n number of physical servers in a given data center within North Virginia region. Keep in mind that there might be more than one data centers in a given region. Each data center might have so many physical servers. In this case, I am representing 4 physical servers. As part of getting started, so far we have created one EC2 instance of type t2.micro. You should be able to search for details related to t2.micro by saying t2.micro in Google. Then you should be able to get the details. So let's click on Amazon EC2 instance types. In this, you should be able to search for t2.micro. You get 1 GB memory, 1 vCPU. When it comes to the storage, 8 GB is default, but we have increased it to 16 GB. You can get the storage details by clicking on storage here. You can see 16 GB storage associated with this instance or virtual machine. So in this case, a virtual machine is created as part of these physical servers whenever we provision instance in EC2. So you can visualize something like this. So out of a huge physical server, a small virtual machine is created. Let's represent virtual machine like this. In this case, I'm naming it as GS demo. Let me specify the name here. Keep in mind that we have created this virtual machine using Ubuntu 20.04 operating system. When we actually provision the virtual machine, it will also create an user. The username is nothing but Ubuntu. There will be home directory for that Ubuntu in the file system of this virtual machine. So let me drag and drop a text box here. The home directory for user Ubuntu is nothing but /home/Ubuntu. It will have hidden folder by name .ssh. This will be automatically be created. Also, when we have created this EC2 instance or virtual machine, we have used gsdemo as the key pair. We have already downloaded gsdemo.pem onto our system. So this is nothing but our PC. Let me say my PC. In this under downloads folder, we have gsdemo.pem. So let's say gsdemo.pem. It is automatically downloaded when we have actually created the key pair. As the EC2 instance is created using gsdemo key pair, the public key associated with that key pair will be copied to something called as authorized keys under .ssh folder. So there will be a file by name authorized keys under .ssh that will contain the public key associated with gsdemo key pair. The file name is nothing but authorized_keys. You can actually go into the EC2 instance. We have already logged into the EC2 instance. Now we can say cd.sh to get into the SSH hidden folder. Then run ls-ltr. You can see authorized keys file here. As this EC2 instance is created using gsdemo key pair, the public key of the gsdemo will be copied into this authorized keys. As the authorized keys contain the public key of the gsdemo, using gsdemo private key, which is nothing but the PEM file, we'll be able to connect to this EC2 instance without any issue. This is what happens when we actually provision EC2 instance from AWS. There will be a virtual machine on top of physical servers in one of the data centers in AWS. That virtual machine will also have the operating system along with the file system. As part of the file system, there will be a hidden folder by name .ssh. It will contain authorized keys. The public key associated with the key pair will be part of authorized keys under .ssh in the virtual machine. The private key is already downloaded onto our PC. Using the combination of private key and the public key in authorized keys, we'll be able to authenticate to this virtual machine. The capacity of the virtual machine is determined by the instance type and the storage that is used while creating the virtual machine. The instance type that is used to create this virtual machine is nothing but t2.micro. You should always be able to get the details by googling around that instance type. When it comes to t2.micro, we get 1 GB of memory, 1 vCPU. Also, when it comes to the storage, we have created this using 16 GB storage. As part of getting started with AWS, so far we have gone through the details about creating EC2 instance using AWS Web Console. You can see that the EC2 instance is up and running at this time. In this lecture, let's go through the details about different instance states, and also let's understand how to stop or terminate this EC2 instance. When it comes to different states associated with the EC2 instance, you can just select the EC2 instance, then click on drop down called as instance state. You can stop the instance, you can reboot the instance, you can also terminate the instance. In case if you wanted to use this EC2 instance for learning purposes for a period of time, you can reduce the cost by stopping the EC2 instance as and when it is not required. To stop, you just have to select the appropriate EC2 instance and then click on stop instance. It will take care of stopping the instance for you. As long as the instance is stopped, you will not be charged for the instance type. However, the storage, which is nothing but 16 GB, you will be charged for that as long as the instance is in either stopped or in running state. That being said, as of now, the instance is in a stopped state. If you want to start the instance, again, you can actually select the instance and then go to instance state. Then you can actually click on start instance. Keep in mind that when you actually stop the instance, the public IPv4 DNS will be gone and a new public IPv4 DNS will be assigned when you actually start the instance again. You might not be able to connect to the same EC2 instance using the same public IPv4 DNS which you have used earlier. Let's review whether the public IPv4 DNS is changed or not. Earlier, I have used this command to connect to this EC2 instance. The public IPv4 DNS is nothing but 54.196.152.66. Now, if I go back to the EC2 console, you can see that the public IPv4 DNS is changed. You have to select this, then go to details, then click on this one, then the public IPv4 DNS is copied into the buffer. Now we should be able to say ssh-i /downloads, then gsdemo.pem, then Ubuntu paste the public IPv4 DNS. Now you will be able to connect to this instance using this new public IPv4 DNS. The reason why public IPv4 DNS is changed is because we have stopped and started the EC2 instance. So when you stop and start to use it again, you have to use different public IPv4 DNS associated with this instance. You can also use a concept of elastic IP to make sure the public IPv4 DNSs are not changed. However, there are costs associated with elastic IPs. That being said, you can actually terminate this instance as well. As long as the instance is in stopped state or running state, you should be able to select the instance and you should be able to click on terminate instance. When you actually click on terminate instance, it will terminate the instance completely. Whatever work you have done so far in this EC2 instance will be gone. You will not be able to reclaim unless you have the backup of the volume. Now, most likely the volume will be gone. As the volume is gone, all the work that is performed with this EC2 instance is gone. This is how you should be able to manage the cycle of the EC2 instances. If you wanted to use the same EC2 instance for a period of time, and if you don't want to get charged whenever you don't use it for your learning purpose, you can keep your EC2 instance in stopped state. You can start it again whenever it is required. You can use it as long as you want, and then again you can stop. If you don't want to use EC2 instance anymore, it is better to terminate it completely so that you will not be charged for anything. You can also confirm whether the storage is gone or not by clicking on volumes once the instance is terminated. Sometimes the volumes might still stay. To make sure the volumes are gone, you can review the volumes by going to the volume section. This is how you should be able to manage the EC2 instances as part of your AWS account.